Have you ever borrowed money to a friend and then had to chase them for that money back months down the line? I don't know about you, but it's the most awkward and annoying conversation to have with a friend. In today's video, what I'm really going to do is share with you 10 different questions you should ask yourself before you borrow money to a friend. I think if you ask yourself these questions and you have this internal dialogue with yourself first before parting with your money, it's going to save you so much more money, save you so much time, and probably save you your relationship. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, thanks for stopping by. My name's Tolu, and on this channel I share content all around personal finance, budgeting, frugal living, and I show you how to live your best life on a budget. Returning subscribers, thanks for coming back to watch another video. It's amazing to have you guys here with me again. Today's video is going to be another money conversation. What I want to do is really address that taboo subject of friendships and money and relationships and money, and the impact that it can actually have when you let the two worlds collide. I'll tell you for free, money really does have the power to make or break relationship. I think there's nothing worse than borrowing money to your friend and then having to chase that friend to get your money back. It's so awkward and it's so uncomfortable, and nobody wants to be having those conversations. I think money has the power to sever even the strongest of relationships. So it's really important to count the cost and consider that transaction before you make it, so that you don't end up losing your money and losing your friend. So with that being said, in today's video, what I'm going to do is share with you 10 questions that you should ask yourself before you consider borrowing or lending money to a friend. I think asking yourself these questions and having this conversation with yourself is really going to save you your money and save you your relationship in the long run. Okay, so the first question to ask yourself is, can I actually afford to borrow my friend this money? I think in friendships and relationships, particularly if you're very close to that person, you want to do what you can to help that person. It's a natural thing to want to help out a friend in need, but you really need to consider the cost. Can I afford to do this? What is going to happen to me financially if I give my friend this money? I think if you have a budget in place, it will be a lot more easier to answer this question. You see how I threw the budget in there? I'm always going to mention budget where I can, but I think when you have a plan for your money and you have a budget, you know exactly how much money you have available for things like giving, then you'll be able to make a calculated decision as to whether or not you can borrow your friend this money. But when you don't have a budget or a plan for your money, it's easier to make this kind of decision on a whim and based on emotion, and not necessarily actually looking at the finances and seeing if it's something that you actually can facilitate without getting yourself into financial trouble. I think if borrowing your friend this money is going to leave you short and you're going to now not be able to meet your own financial commitments and your own financial obligations, then as much as you want to help, you're going to have to say no, because what you don't want to do is put yourself out of pocket and get yourself into a bad financial situation just because you're trying to help somebody else in their own financial situation. Don't feel pressured and don't feel obliged to say yes just because it's your friend. Count the cost. Can I afford it? If you can't afford it, then just say no. Another good question to ask is, what is this loan for? Why do you need this loan? I know you don't want to get all up in your friend's financial business, but at the same time, ask your friend, what is this money for? Because I think the reason for the loan might actually have an impact on whether or not you're able to say yes or say no to them. For example, a loan because your employer hasn't paid you on time for some kind of technical reason and they've told you your payment's going to be delayed by 2-3 weeks. That's very different to you asking for a loan to buy an item that's on sale because you have to buy this item now. If you don't buy it, you're going to miss out on that special offer. I think there's nothing wrong with asking a friend to borrow you money if it's an urgent need and you actually need it for something important. But if it's for something so silly, I don't know, you want to buy a new iPhone 5 or whatever the latest iPhone is at the moment, and you just want to use my money to buy it for whatever reason, I probably would say no, to be honest, because it's not that deep. You're not going to die if you don't get that latest iPhone right now. You can wait and save your money and buy it when you have the money to buy it. It's not really a critical thing for you to be taking a loan from somebody for. For me, knowing the why do you want this loan, is an important question to ask, because knowing the why, knowing what the importance is of that loan will play a role in making an informed decision as to whether or not you want to part with your hard-earned money. Another question to ask yourself is, will this make our relationship awkward? It can make your relationship awkward both ways. It could be awkward if you say no and your friend's side-eyeing you thinking you're tight, why are you not borrowing me the money that I need? But then equally, it could make the relationship awkward if you say yes, because now it's a position of I owe you money or you owe me money. So things can be quite awkward knowing that this person owes me money and we're still going on as normal, but you still owe me money, I still need my money. So for example, you can see that person that owes you money now posting on Instagram, I don't know, they've gone out to eat with their friends or whatever, they're living their life. At the end of the day, they still need to live their life between the time that they borrow the money from you and the time that they need to pay you the money back. So in that time, are you going to be okay knowing that this person owes you money and is still living their life as normal? Or will you be okay to just take it on the chin and be like, okay, you know, they said they're going to pay me back in 3 months, 2 months, whenever they're going to pay you back, I'll just wait until that money comes back and I won't feel feel anyway, seeing them living their life as normal while they still owe me money. I think it's really important just to be honest with yourself. Like, can I actually handle my friend owing me money? And if you can't handle your friend owing you money, then that's something you need to consider before you lend money to that friend. Another good question to ask yourself is this an amount of money that I can afford to lose? Because it's one thing borrowing money to a friend, it's another thing getting that money back. I know so many of you watching right now could probably tell an experience of a story whereby you borrowed money to a friend and then you never saw that money again. So is this money an amount of money that you can afford to lose? Will you be okay if you don't get that money back? That's a good question to ask yourself before you part with that money. With me, I don't really like borrowing people money. I'll rather just give people money if I can afford to give them the money, because I think when you borrow someone money and you have that expectation of getting that money back, when it doesn't come back in the timeline that you're expecting it, or if for whatever reason they're unable to meet that debt repayment, can you afford to lose that money? I think another good question to ask yourself is which will actually impact your relationship more, saying yes or saying no. I think if you ask yourself that question, it's going to really make you think twice about whether or not you go ahead with borrowing them that money that they've asked for. I know a lot of people actually find it so hard to say no, and to be honest, I can say I fall into that category of people because I don't like letting people down or offending people or disappointing people. And I know in the past I've agreed to things, not necessarily loans, but just doing things for people, and it's been to my own detriment. So as heartless as this may sound, you've got to do what's best for you and ask yourself which scenario is actually better. Saying yes to your friend and keeping them sweet because they've been able to get what they want, or saying no and disappointing that friend because you're unable to facilitate their requirements. Consider the impact that both choices will have on your relationship and go with the decision that will allow you to sleep peacefully at night. The next question to ask yourself is, what is the worst case scenario? I think by allowing yourself to play out the different scenarios in your head will actually help you to be able to make a more informed decision. An example worst case scenario could be your friend never ever pays you back your money, as in ever. Like, they go ghost on you, you don't hear from them again, they literally block your phone number, block you on WhatsApp, block you on all their social media platforms so you can't get a hold of them again. What impact will this worst case scenario actually have on you and your financial situation? And is it actually worth losing a really good friend over this money? I mean, let's be honest, that worst case scenario is a worst case scenario and that may or may not even happen. But I think just allowing yourself to kind of go there in terms of thinking of worst outcomes, worst case scenarios, what's the worst that can happen if I give my friend this money, will really prepare you for what could possibly happen and any kind of potential pitfalls that may arise from you borrowing your friend this money, so that you're not kind of walking into this blindly and just hoping for the best and then coming out with the worst. I think as much as I've been a bit over the top with this worst case scenario, I don't know about you, but I watched enough episodes of Judge Rinder to know that things can go wrong when it comes to borrowing friends your money. And if you're not based in the UK, you may not know who Judge Rinder is, but he's basically the UK equivalent of Judge Judy in the US. When you watch enough episodes of those shows, you realize that no, money does have that power to impact relationships in a negative way. You may borrow your friend that money innocently, and your friend may have all the intention in the world to pay you that money back. But things can happen, life can happen. Your friend's financial situation can totally change, which means that they're no longer in a position to pay you that money back. So it's important to prepare yourself for any of these eventualities. I think another good question to ask yourself, or even ask your friend, is how much debt they actually have. Are you number 25 on a list of creditors that they already have? In which case, the likelihood of you getting your money back is pretty much 0 to none, because they have so many other people that they need to prioritize repaying before they get around to paying you back your money. I think if your friend is struggling financially and they have so many different creditors and people that they owe money to, I think instead of helping them dig a deeper hole for themselves, maybe you can help them come up with a solution in order to get out of debt and change their financial situation. So I know there's amazing charities, for example, like Step Change, who help people that are in a lot of debt and struggling with their finances. Charities like Step Change really help people who are in debt to totally overcome that debt. I think signposting them in the direction of charities like Step Change and other debt relief charities and organisations can really help them to get on top of their finances. Another question to ask yourself is, how formal do we want this arrangement to be? I know it may sound a bit extreme to be asking your friend to sign a contract for the money in which you've borrowed to them, but having said that, if it's money that you know that you cannot afford to lose, then it might be worth protecting yourself and getting some kind of contract in place, typing up a document with the terms of this loan and when you expect to receive that money back, so that should the worst happen, you are at least protected. At least you can go to court. If you don't formalize the arrangement and you can't afford to just give your friend that money, or you can't afford for your friend not to pay you back, then you might want to consider getting that kind of protection in place and create some kind of contract for your friend to sign. On the other hand, you might not want to make it formal at all, and you might want to borrow your friend the money, but in the back of your mind, you know that, do you know what, if they don't pay me back, it's fine. If they pay me back, it's even better. But I've given them that money and I'm cool with it. then in that case, you need no kind of formal arrangement. It's a loan that you've accepted may or may not come back, and you're okay with that. But it's a question to ask yourself either way, so that you know where you stand and what your expectations are. Another question to ask yourself is, should you charge interest? Now, this is not something that I would do personally, but everybody's different and people are different when it comes to their money, because that money that you're borrowing your friend is money that you may have other plans for, money that you may be investing. By giving it to your friend, you're missing out on that extra money that you could have made off that money, which is why you may want to charge them interest. It's up to you. It's a question that you need to ask yourself and a conversation that you need to have with yourself, so that you know that, okay, I'm borrowing you this £500 and I'm expecting an extra £50 on top, or I'm just borrowing you this £500 and I don't expect you to pay any interest. But I think having that open conversation and asking yourself that question, you can put those expectations in place and have that open conversation with your friend before you borrow them any money. And if they're happy to take that loan and pay the additional interest, then so be it. And if they don't want to agree to your terms, again, so be it. I think another question to ask yourself is this a regular occurrence? Like, is this something that keeps happening over and over again? I borrowed you money today, you're back again next month asking for money. A month after that, you've come back again the third time, maybe the fourth time, fifth time, 10th time, 100th time. Like, if this is something that is a reoccurring thing, ask yourself the question, am I helping my friend by borrowing them the money all the time? Or is there something else I can do to help them get better with managing their finances, so that they're not in a position that they're having to keep borrowing money from me? I think if your friend is continuously asking you to borrow money from them, then there probably is some kind of problem and they are struggling in some area when it comes to their finances. If you are good friends, then you should be able to have a real honest conversation with them to kind of get an understanding of what's really going on and why they keep coming back to borrow money from you, so that you can kind of help them on their financial journey, maybe point them in the right direction of places and people and facilities whereby they can get the support they need to get on track with their finances. So those are just 10 questions that I think you should ask yourself before borrowing money to a friend. I'll be interested to know if those are questions that you ask yourself before borrowing money to friends, or if you even borrow money to friends. Is that something that you do? Let me know in the comment section below any stories that you have of times when you borrowed money to friends and it's gone well, or equally times when you borrowed money to a friend and it hasn't gone well. I did the same post over on my Instagram, and the stories and the feedback that I got was actually crazy. I did the poll actually asking how many people would borrow money to their friends, and over 60% of the people said no and 35% said yes. So most people weren't keen on borrowing money to a friend. I'll be interested to know in the comment section below, would you borrow money to your friend or wouldn't you borrow money to your friend? If you made it this far in the video and you haven't yet given it a thumbs up, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and I will see you on my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.